Good evening. I am so glad that you are here tonight because I have someone that I enjoy so much. But before we get to that, I just have to tell y'all that I ran away from home. I am actually in Gulf Shores. So this is a beach show, which explains the hair. But also, I have been involved with Period Heads in Paradise, which is PHIP. It is a a fundraising branch of the Period Head Clubs, which is Jimmy Buffett's groups of fans. And I am one. I have been a Period Head since I was 15. I saw Jimmy Buffett open for Eddie Money. That's how old I am. But anyway, we have partied with a purpose. We have raised so much money. We had a tribute to a musician who had passed today, and that event is called the No Plane on Sunday group. It started in Key West. And so I'm just going to say thank you, Jimmy Buffett, for bringing me so many of my friends. And I'm so sorry you're not here in the flesh with us now. But I tell you what, you have created one of the most friend organized places and events that I've ever been part of. And Lulu's is fantastic. So just so everybody knows, if you come to Gulf Shores, go to Lulu's and support them a little bit, because you know what? I did a 5K this week. I did all kinds of raffle things and stuff like that. All the money goes to where they say it's going to go. So, and it's all about helping people out. So are Period Head Clubs. So if you have one around you and you're interested, it's a great way to give back to your community. Now, I have to say that my guest tonight is Teal Gray. Teal is a brilliant writer. You can find all of her work on Amazon. I don't have one of them with me because they're on my bookshelf at home because I'm in the middle of reading something else, and I've read Teal's. But I'm so glad to bring her to you. She is a sacred site explorer. She is a global traveler because she enjoys that so much. And we are going to be joined in a little while by a special guest, the special surprise guest who has shared one of Teal's adventures, and y'all know them. You'll love it. So I have to say, welcome, Teal Gray.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, I am thrilled that you are here. I had such a good time with you.
I do, you too. We're just like a little bit like sisters who never grew up together.
And who live across some thick states from each other.
Right. That's right. That's right.
Wouldn't it be nice if the South was like New England and you could drive 20 minutes and be at your friend's house?
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, I'm a native Texan, and it's a big state. It's a big state.
It is. And, you know, it's really funny because one of my girlfriends is in Louisiana, but on the Texas side. She's down by Baton Rouge. And
okay.
So she was like, well, we're so close. And I'm like, we're really not. Once I get to New Orleans, it's another 2.5 hours, and I am 2.5 hours from New Orleans. So from here, when you count Birmingham, it's going to be about an 8-hour drive to get to her, but she's so worth it. So that is a shout out to my friend Jennifer. So
nice.
Y'all are very similar. You would love to meet her.
We'll have to have a little get together.
We can do that because we have this technology now, so we can just get faces with everybody.
We could. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Have our own little conference.
We could do that. We could sell tickets to that.
We could sell tickets to that. That's for sure. That would be something.
Well, because that's UFOs, that's ghosts, that's cryptids, and we all do all three. I mean, all of us. And she has actually been having a lot of ET contact lately. So
I bet it's really amping up, you know. I think partly because of the big changes that will happen either way it goes with the elections. Whenever there's big changes, they come closer and they show themselves more frequently.
Why is that?
I think it's just to remind us that we're a very small little ant on the pile, and we think we're amazing, which we actually are amazing, but they have shown themselves at different times when it was, some upheaval possibilities in the country, and have turned off power plants. They've made it, where we know, look, we can shut these things down. We can also turn things on. So watch it.
Minot springs to mind with both of those, which is a nuclear base.
Yeah.
And they actually shut down our nuclear capability in that base.
Yeah.
When things were getting pretty hot and it looked like we'd be launching one. So
right. So
I turned one on.
I think, keep them off. Just keep them off. Nobody needs one of those. We don't need that.
We have enough riots, fires, and mudslides, as Buffett said. I'm going to be a little bit reminiscent because I really liked that individual as a person and the charity. So there may be a few parrot headisms dropping in left and right.
Hey, listen, I love that. So, I think that's wonderful you do that. I think it is. It's a beautiful thing. And it's something that people can get involved in. Like you said, there's so many, sites that for them, and they're so well known and so well loved. And it's a charity that is checked out. It's, safe to use and safe to send money to. And I think that's wonderful.
Well, especially in times like this, because, 2 major hurricanes within the span of 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Hitting through Florida. And, now that they're flipping over into the Atlantic, they're going to my kid.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yes.
And then the owner of Fate magazine was in direct danger and affected by Helene.
Yeah.
So, it's
that's
just
terrible.
It
well,
is.
If you remember back, this started actually 3 years ago, but if you remember, I was always hoping to give you better news for the new year, but I was saying, it's just going to continue to grow as far as these acts of God, as the insurance company calls them, so that they don't have to help you. It just, the weather the changes are unfathomable. And even the fishermen, out on the big ships in the ocean and stuff, Coast Guard, they're seeing wave levels that has never happened before. And I think it's, those affect everything. They affect, tidal waves, and the moon, you get that teamed up with it. We just got off of full moon. So a lot of things really do come together in nature that are wild and violent. And, we just have to stay in prayer and hope for the best, but be prepared. Always tell everybody that, look, at least for 3 days, but gosh, a week, 2 weeks, because sometimes the power is out. Sometimes grocery stores can't get any, supplies in. So please have plenty of water and at least some energy bars, something that you don't need to cook, like tuna in pouches, things that you can get some protein from. And don't forget your pets. Stay stocked up on some extra food that you don't touch. I understand sometimes it's like, oh, I didn't have a chance to go to the store, I'm going to steal from this pile, but just replenish it, because
you should be doing that anyway. You should be rotating that stock. And we actually had to do that with a few groceries. And because somebody ran out of Splenda.
Oh, there you
and
go.
Didn't have it. So
how dare they?
I know, I couldn't believe that happened. But so, that's how you can rotate your stock. You don't want to have expired food in your tornado and hurricane
for so many that don't have a lot of stock because they're living, a little closer to the cuff, it's hard to do it. I understand that. But even if just, if you can extra couple of cans, even if it's not your favorite, cans of Vienna sausage, cans of, like I said, pouches of tuna, just anything that you don't have to cook, just in case.
I bought more beef stew.
I did that back in the
I was looking
day.
for
I did
canned
that back
stuff. I couldn't
in
believe it.
1999. I had so much chili and didn't more beef stew. But now I'm saying even things you don't have that you can't heat
Yes.
up,
Yes.
because
Well, the
sometimes
pouches
you get
are.
in a situation that you are stuck, But some of the
Mhm.
things like, cheese and crackers, anything, it doesn't mean you're not going to get help quickly, but you need to have some stuff to where you're already going to be in stress if this is a problem for you.
Yes.
So the
Yes.
last thing you need is to be hungry or thirsty, or don't have anything for your pets, your children, whatever. And think about your medication for elderly or
Mhm.
young. Make sure you have plenty of stock. I'm just thinking about that.
Well, that is really sound advice. And I do love that we have the pouches now, and you have like the little, peanut butter stuff.
Yeah.
There's
Just
so many
anything,
ways
get
that
you
you can be
some
prepared.
protein. You can, yeah. Just kind of think about that. And even if you're like, gosh, I'm lucky to get food on the table this week, I understand that. But gosh, if you can just even save up a bit if you have to, and
Right.
grab a can of peanut butter, I mean,
Just
just
an extra
anything.
one. Yeah.
Just an extra
So,
one, and just try to make a little build up, so everybody can do it, whether you're having tight times or not. Just think within your means and just do what you can, but think about
absolutely.
things that don't have to be heated.
Well, it just makes it so much easier.
Oh
So,
yeah.
because, I everybody in the South grills, you know, but you
Yeah.
still, you know, the first thing that people need, including medical facilities and such, are the gases.
Yeah,
And
because
so
if you're
don't count
using
on
a
being
gas or propane grill and you
mhm,
don't have it, that's not going to work. So,
right.
you'll have to build a fire, but do you have the things for that? So again, I just at least have things, that would be a luxury to some people to be able to cook
Yes.
out, So just to think, but yeah, it's I don't see anything. I mean, I think we've got probably, because I think I told you the first time it was probably like a 10-year cycle. I think we got 7 more years of it,
Yeah.
but we'll see. We're not even midway there yet, but it's pretty devastating.
It is. But now that we have solved all of the
The
hunger
world's
problems that are
problems.
crisis, so that everybody knows what to do if you get into a food crisis. And
Right.
if you can do it, go ahead and do it a little bit at a time so that you're not, if you're in a, I'm not going to lie, I was doing tornado cleanup after an F5 hit in my town.
Mm.
And I went into this house and everything, appliances, furniture, everything except the bathtub the woman was hiding in, her picture of Jesus on her wall
Wow.
in her hallway, and a jar of peaches that she had canned that was sitting upright in the middle of the kitchen floor.
Yeah, they weren't leaving her alone. That's crazy.
Everything in that house was gone except those
Mm.
3 things, and by the time,
Wow.
of course, I got there, I'm the one that pulls things down and tears them out.
Hmm.
Um, she was gone,
Yeah.
and so, you know, I don't go in until they say that it's okay because I don't want to be more of a problem. But, yeah, so it's amazing.
Yeah.
These storms are amazing. There's stories like that everywhere. But
Hmm.
I want to talk about you. I know that you do that and you're not bashful about doing that, but the information that we just gave out is really important. Um, but you have traveled everywhere.
I like to travel. I think
Yeah.
it's I've always been a curious little cat, as a child on up, and I hope I never lose it. I want to be kind
I
of a
know.
lifelong learner, and one of the best ways to learn is to immerse yourself in different cultures and different belief systems, but you have to be just an open blank page. I think it's best to not come in with any preconceived notions, because so much of that is just things that have been passed around that aren't even, a lot of times they're not even true at all. So or they're based as what do we say about the devil, even a lie has got a kernel of truth to it, so but but be informed, but be open-minded. And yeah, there's, I know you love want to hear about some of my favorite sacred sites tonight, so I know we're going to touch on that, and then we're going to have a little mystery about one of my biggest ghost stories ever.
And this is because we have talked about that biggest ghost story, but we have not brought
We've
this
only
person
ever
in.
got to just kind of touch on it,
Yes.
we never
Yeah.
told the full story, and nobody knows the full story. So tonight you'll get that.
And I'm so excited because for those that don't know, Teal works closely with other people with her skill set.
Mhm.
And I'm fortunate enough to be friends with a couple of them, actually. So we're going to have a good time when we bring
It
this
will be.
person in. But
Yeah.
where did you want to start with your adventures?
Well, let's start with something. I don't think very many people go there or even know that they can. Let's start with the holy island of Lindisfarne. How about that? Now, have you
Sounds
ever
good.
heard of that?
Nope, just from you.
Okay, it's a tidal island. So let me explain that quickly. A tidal island is something that, you cannot access 24/7. So as
Oh,
the tide
tidal.
comes,
Okay.
a tidal island. So it's, at certain times of the day, the tide goes in and you're trapped, and it goes out and you can make a run for it. So it's not as, it comes in quickly, though. Can I tell you a funny story before we get to the history
I
of it?
would love that. Yeah.
Okay, guys. So I went there with my family and a friend, and so there were 7 of us, and there was too many of us and too many bags associated therewith to get a normal van. So they rented us what they called a people mover.
Okay.
So it was like probably for 11 people, 12 passengers, something like that. So it was a good sized van. And my son-in-law was driving it and did a great job, because it was hard, and the streets there, I'm from Texas, so we're used to big, wide open spaces.
Yeah.
Flip that to make it narrow, make it where a lot of times there's a one lane that's going to have to provide for everybody, and you're in something well oversized. So stressful. Yes, I'm sure he has a little PTSD from that, but 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 he did a great job. But anyway, he really wanted to see this, and I did too. And it's so we knew it was a tidal, tidal
Right.
island, but you don't think about that really. I mean, you know it, and you're like, oh, okay, that's great, that's that. But now, if somebody says that to me, I pay very close attention to that, and to the times. What time is it? Where are we at? So we drive up. It seems fine. You can see that. I mean, the water is close on each side of you, but that's okay, because you got a nice road, and the road is long. You reach what is the
Oh,
village before you get to anything else, the castle, or the old monastery, anything like that. So we drive up, and everything's great. We get out. Oh, it's beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful and so historic, so historic. And it's been a pilgrimage site, and for people who have gone to it for literally centuries. It's very old and has a lot of history to it. So, but we drive up, and we're just like, can you believe we're here? And looking around, and so everybody kind of splits up, because we don't realize how little time we have.
oh dear.
So yeah, I was like, that's a metaphor for life right there. You don't really realize, and then when you're coming quick. So we're looking around, and I just taking it all in and taking pictures and stuff. And this oh gosh, we couldn't have been there more than 10 or 15 minutes. And then this little old lady, about to my shoulder, comes up, stands really close, like just about touching me, and taps me on the shoulder. And I was thinking to myself, oh, I knew you were there. But hello. And I said, hi, how are you? And she said, honey, are you staying the night? And I said, no, I didn't even know you could, honestly. I didn't do that much research for that because I have to be in Edinburgh, so I have to make that by a certain time. And we can't stay, and she's like, so you're not in lodging anywhere? No. Okay. Look here. And she points out sort of in front of me, just, to the right a little bit. And she's like, do you see those 3 rocks in the center of the water? And I was like, I do. Yeah. And she's like, were you planning on going, to everything? And I said, yeah. We're going to come back, and she's, oh, well, that's good because you won't have time today. And I said, oh, I think we will. And she's like, no. She goes, do you see now? Are you watching? Are you paying attention? I said, yes, ma'am, and I was thinking to myself, what is, it's a little annoying at this point. And so she's like, do you see now that there's not 3 rocks? There's 2. And I was like, oh, yeah, I do see that. And she's like, are you alone? And I said, no, there's 7 of us. She's like, gather them up as fast as you can. I'm not too sure that you're going to be able to make it across. And if you don't, you'll just float out and then somebody will have to come rescue you. Can you swim? And I said, actually, I'm not a good swimmer. And then she goes, do you see how the rock is coming up on the second? I just stopped talking to her and started yelling for all my people. Everybody, no. Get in the van. They're thinking, what is happening? So they're rushing forward and I'm talking 1,000 miles an hour, telling them about, what just happened and that we're about to not be able to get off this island.
Yeah.
So we rushed into everybody, just like throw yourself in. And he's already driving, he's buckled up. Everybody's getting it together as he's driving out fast as he can. And we can see the water starting to kind of do the, how it licks over the road here and there as the tides coming in and out. And we're like, okay, we can make it. But then we realize it's a really long road. This is not anything at all close, and then it makes sense later when you can gather your thoughts because you have to have the break between the water coming up and the village to be safe and everything else. So it's a long way. And so we're just barreling through this and thankful that nobody's coming in the other way because it's a one road situation. It's not a 2 people playground. And so we go through. We get about halfway there and realize, oh my God, it's coming up. In your inside, when you're in a car or a van, thank goodness we were in a people mover. It was a little bit taller, but even at that, it would be so much worse for somebody who was in a normal car or van. It was already halfway up our hubcaps and we had a long way to go. And so the waves are whacking against, the sides of the van. And we're going and we're thinking, we're looking from where we are to where we need to be for safety and really just praying because we're not too sure that that's going to happen. And now you're in mode of thinking, okay, she said that it, how long would this float? This is heavy. Like, would it float? Like, what's going to happen? We have to, I don't know. Do we get out of it? She didn't say whether to stay in it or not. She said, somebody could rescue, but I mean, they're not alerted that we need rescue. So your mind's just kind of racing and running amok.
Yes.
And now the water is up above the top of the hubcap. And so we're just blazing through, but the water now is rocking us, because as it hits. So we do finally, by just inches, like get to the road and we're coming out super hot, right? So we scare the death out of a couple of cars that are on the road because we're here because this huge, people mover coming out like a crazy person. And we just pulled over and just stopped for a minute. It was just the craziest thing that we almost didn't make. So of course more trips had to be made, but it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful island. It's a holy spot. It's been that way, as I said, for centuries, but check your timetables, your tide tables, and find out when are you going. And if you do have a night that you could stay there, that village was beautiful, charming, so historic. The castle and the monastery Amazing. Just, it's amazing. There's so many ghost stories associated with that.
What village
And
was that?
it's the village there at the Holy Island. They call it the Holy Island, but it's Holy Island Lindisfarne. And it is in the far north, northeast coast of England.
Okay.
So it's all right there, but that was so scary. Did you ever see The Lady in Black with oh gosh, I just blanked out on his name. He was in Harry Potter, or The Woman in
Oh,
Black.
Daniel.
He's Daniel Radcliffe. He
Yes.
is on he gets sent to take care of the estate on a tidal island, place. And he is shocked too, because he thinks he's there, and then he turns around, he can't leave. So he has to stay in this terribly haunted house. It's a good movie if you haven't seen it.
I will watch
Um,
that.
but it's been active, that the Holy Island's been active from the 12th century and until 1537, when the monks, the monastery was dissolute, was broken up. Oh my gosh, they made wine there. They just, they helped to, it's holy into the church in the way that it was big time help in changing people who believed in the ways of the Druid to Christianity. So that's one of the things that they're known for. But it's just, it's got like 160 people that live there permanently now. That's small, but for a little island, it's not, and just to see all those little cottages and all the little apartments kind of thing, that not apartments like we know them. They would be
Right.
like little cottage houses, all different sizes, all different things. It's just, I think if anybody can do it, I know it's off the beaten path, but I think you should. In
I like
630,
off the beaten path.
you've got to do that. In 635, an Irish monk, Saint Aidan, he's the one that founded the monastery there. And so work has been going on, and pilgrimage has been going on ever since,
Oh
and
my, that's
some
older than
stories. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's 635 is very old. And even people say even before he founded the monastery, it was a holy site. People still made pilgrimages to that land. And we talked about that before. What makes something holy and what makes something, feel like it's cursed, This is one of
Yes.
those that it's just been amazing and holy for centuries. Now, in 793, there was just a devastating Viking raid that happened there. They killed monks, and anybody they could find. They killed monks, they killed dogs, they killed anybody that was there. Stole all the relics they could find, all the treasures. I mean, they devastated that whole island. And I mean, that was really a big thing. And it was really a hit to the church, because being Christian, priding themselves on being Christian, that was to them also an attack of people who weren't against them. So it was
Sure.
taken to heart in a lot of places, not just there, but throughout England and other places that were trying to convert to Christianity. So, but it's just a history that goes back long way. And I tell you what, that would be an amazing place to have an investigation, and to have a group go and stay and
Just get a room.
just, yes, get a room. Don't try. Please don't walk the road on a night stroll, because you're gonna get saved by the Coast Guard. But there's,
If you're
there's
fortunate.
if you're lucky, yeah, because that's deep water. But they say there's the hound that used to be so loyal and protect the castle, and was, there with the monastery. They still see that dog a lot. And
That's interesting.
I think I saw the dog, but I was so in a state of craziness that I didn't
Yeah.
I didn't know about that at the time. But yeah.
You know, it is so hard for me to envision you wigging out because you're
I was on
so.
the inside. I'm calm on the outside, but I was like feeling very responsible for the other 6 people with me, you know? And I was like, oh, I brought them here and I got to get them out in one piece. And I wasn't even the one driving, you know? I mean, so
Yes, it was out of your control.
it was out of my control, and I'm a little bit of a control freak.
No, we
So
would never
just a
do
little,
that.
just a little. But it really is generally not to just be controlling. It's always my first thought is for all the people, whether they're attending an event or they're with me traveling. For example, this not this past weekend, that was a library investigation we did, but the weekend ago on the
Mm-hmm.
13th, we had a big investigation for the Oddfellows Cemetery here in Denton, Texas. Now, they hadn't allowed that before. So they're doing a big 31 days of Denton, Texas Halloween. They're leaning into it like some other cities and towns lean into Christmas.
Right.
And so, not wanting to compete with any of that, they thought, hey, let's do this. They did a phenomenal job. And I, gratefully had 4 events during that with them, with the city. But one of them was this cemetery tour, an investigation. So,
let's let people know that you did write the book, Haunted
oh,
Denton.
yes, I wrote Haunted Denton. Yeah, I wrote Haunted
I know
Denton.
her. Yes.
Yeah, it's Haunted Denton. Yeah, they came to me and said, hey, would you do these events? And I said, yeah, I can. And so I had my team, which I do have a big team of like 14 people on my investigative team. And they're all heavy hitters on their own right. Like, these are not just team members. These people could all have their own teams.
Right.
So, you kind of got the best of the best out there doing this. And I had them, I was just on the minutia, like any little detail, because in my mind, if you're over prepared, everything's going to be fine. And it was. Yes. But the city was like, gosh, it's the first year, Teal. I know you think a lot of people are going to come, but 20 would be a success. And I said, I'm bringing more than 20 people on my own, And we had the North Texas Ghostbusters, yes, who are an amazing group of people out there. And so we had them, we had the Ghostbusters cars and all of these things in the trucks. And so they were out there with us. So we had all of that extra help. But I set up, because I started thinking, no, I just had a feeling this is not going to be terribly small. I'm not going to be able to move the group around. So I need to set up stations. So it's a 22-acre cemetery. It's big.
And tell them the history of the Oddfellows there with that, why that cemetery.
Well, the Oddfellows are a fraternal order that came over from England, mm-hmm, and the Rebeccas are a set of them for the women, and that was done later. But they're very charitable. They really, to this day, do amazing work. But there's always been a lot of mystery, and to them, and to their ceremonies and different things. In fact, when I was doing a book reading just several days from that on Haunted Denton at the library, the main guy, the head guy from the order here of the Oddfellows was there on the front row in the audience. And I always am really courteous and just, because if I'm not in the order, it's going to be hearsay, right? I mean, I can't tell you for a fact. So I kind of allude to things, but I don't say anything's a fact. Well, he stood up and he said, hey, Teal, can I say something? I was like, yeah, I didn't know who he was. And he said, hey, I'm the main guy here. I own the building downtown that you're talking about now, for where the Oddfellows met, for all that time. It's a very historic building. And he's like, I own it. And also, you haven't said it, and we appreciate that you've not really jumped on the bandwagon here of all the rumors. He's like, but so let me give you a treat. And he comes over and he takes off his ring, which has got memento mori and everything on it. puts a ring in my hand, closes my hand, shakes my hand. And I guess that was like letting me know, hey, you're okay. I was like, it's a beautiful ring. And I was like, are you kidding me? I can't believe he's here. And he said, so you ready for your treat? And I said, yes. And he goes, he turns to the audience. He goes, what she's not telling you, because she's being gracious, is that we do use real skeletons, real cadaver stuff in some of our ceremonies. And he goes, although they're biblically based, tell them that. And I said, okay, yeah. I mean, I don't know everything, but I was not going to, I don't know. So I was like, they are. And so he said his name's Charlie. We still have him. And so the audience was like, what? It's not a fake. It's not just a skeleton from the store. And he goes, no, his name's Charlie. He was a real guy. And we treat him respectfully. And he's got his, the coffin and all the stuff. So all the rumors that you've been hearing, through time about him are true. And
How did they get to have a real skeleton?
Well, you got to think, I mean, this goes back to the 18th for here. This goes back to the 1800s for this order. I mean, they're older than that coming over from England. Nobody's going to tell you what to do back then. You just did what you did. So, and then it just became so shrouded in mystery if you weren't part of it that, it was just hearsay. So it was a real, just like that. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to say for sure what they're doing if you're not one. And if you were one, you wouldn't say anything. So it was a real treat, everybody was really shocked and it was fun. But so they were the ones that, started the cemetery there in the center of town. It grew from 4 acres. That was its start. And then more and more people, leaders of the community would add, hey, let us donate land, buy it here, there. And now it's grown through the time to be 22 acres. So it was huge.
Wow, that is
so
huge.
I had 6 stations set out throughout, and with multiple people from the team, and brought in my good friends from RIP, Greg Stevens and Brandon Lee and their team. They came out because they're veterans. And I thought it was more respectful than us talking about it to have actual veterans on the section that is so heavily veteran out there. And so they could, so they could tell their stories and their side of it, because soldiers all the way from revolutionary Texas up to past, World War II and on, Confederates, Union, they're all buried out there beside each other. And there have been, through the years, many stories of people thinking, is there a historical reenactment? What happened? It's weird hour of night. Like, what are these people doing out there? Maybe they're checking out, seeing soldiers, seeing Civil War soldiers, seeing people that were revolutionary, like Texas Revolution and stuff, like all the different also things that are more recognizable, like World War I, World War II outfits, things. They can't explain it, but they're said to roam the cemetery. So the spirits. Yeah.
The spirits and period clothing.
Yeah. And there's apartments around there and houses. And so sometimes people have reported hearing arguing, and then seeing, a soldier or soldiers or something. And it makes sense because you have them, especially the Confederates and the Union, you have 2 completely different sides that they might be having a conversation.
Right.
But you never know. But they see them a lot. So we have that out there. There was the crying baby, Isabel Carroll is buried out there. She was the very first person to be buried in that cemetery. And ever since then, there has been people who would see or hear a baby crying. And so they think that's her. And who can say? But but also a woman in a red jacket is seen out there. And I have one member, Ty, he's not a member of my club. He's part of the North Texas Ghostbusters, but he did an investigation with us there and at the Emily Fowler Library in Denton. And he used to live in the apartments on an upper floor that overlooked that cemetery. And he said he saw a young girl in a red coat in the middle of a snowstorm out there, and he was really concerned. He's like, oh my gosh, she's little, like she's young. What is she doing in the middle of the cemetery in the snow? And he was like, oh my gosh. So while he's watching, and he's also, getting his boots on to run out and see what he could, because that's, so what the heck happened? His mind couldn't even imagine. Before he leaves, he's looking, he's like, oh my gosh. And he looks and he's like, God, he's hitting on the window. Hey, gosh, there's no way she's going to hear him. And she vanishes. She doesn't walk away. She doesn't go in a mist. She's done, like, she's so solid for several minutes, and then she's gone. He still went out there and nothing, but there was no mistaking that. And other people have seen children roaming around. There are a lot, sadly, of graves that are, adolescent graves, and so many historical ones. But there's the one that's kind of interesting, I hope is true, is there is the Pascal building downtown on the historic square by the courthouse in Denton, which we do have voted one of the most beautiful courthouse squares in the country. And it really is. It's historic. It's beautiful. Anyway, Andy's Bar, is Pascal's building. It's one of the oldest surviving buildings there in the square, because there's been so many devastating fires, 3 really, but it's still there. And the man that owned it, and he used to have a grocery store there. He had all kinds of things going on there through its time, but he's buried in the cemetery. And he had a certain, there's pictures of him, historic pictures of him, where, he had his hat and he'd have a shirt, he'd have a vest on. It seemed like he always had his little vest on, and his sleeves rolled up a little bit. And he was always tinkering with something, they said. Well, at the cemetery, they see somebody that looks like him. And he has got a little, the really old toolboxes that were just like a little wooden box with a handle.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. I still have my dad's.
Yeah. Well, they see him leaving the cemetery, and some people have even stopped short in traffic because he looks solid enough until he's just gone, until you're like, what did I see? I mean, I thought somebody was about to rock in front of the car. They see him going the direction of downtown, of historic downtown. Well, he's also been seen in the windows of that building, looking out, looking down, and just around in the building by workers and different people. So I kind of like to think that he still goes and tinkers at his building that he loved, and I love that one. I really do. I like that.
I have to tell you, I absolutely think that happens because a medium that Rick McCollum had told me about, we talked because I had her on the show. And so we were talking, and she's like, well, do you want a reading, or are you wanting to book me? I said, well, it depends on how the reading goes. I need to know you're real. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
But she knew names. She knew stuff that was not on any social media, that was not
that you couldn't look up.
Anything that I would have.
Yeah.
So, except for my dog Willow, she got that name, but the others, and so I was like, well, I feel that, because my dad was a handy guy, and he loved tromping through woods, and he loved dogs, and he's a great guy. And so she's like, well, because she has said his name. And I was like, well, she's like, he's always here. He's always with you, not necessarily there. And I was like, well, why doesn't he let me know? And she said, because you don't ask him to.
Yeah. I mean, free will.
There you go.
Do have that. Yeah.
So, but I mean, I always feel him. And it's really weird sometimes. I mean, he's not always there, because I'm sure that he's at his house with his well-loved wife. But, it's just really bizarre that people want to continue, especially if
they love it and they just enjoy it. And I think it's just something they're afforded, I mean, I don't believe he's trapped at all. If he was trapped, he wouldn't be able to leave the cemetery, or he wouldn't be able to leave the building. He's not trapped at all. It's just something he loves to do. Now, does he just do it on an anniversary? Does he just do it on a special time? I mean, I don't know. I haven't researched enough, but it would be interesting to, they don't have to, but sometimes they are seen more at a certain time. But, I just don't know. But it was there's so many really fascinating people buried out there. But I set up, like I said, 6 stations, and then at the last hour, I was going to there's another section just across a road at the back of the cemetery beside it there that goes into the other part of the cemetery, which is about 4 acres, and it's a very old part of it. And they, I thought, okay, at the end, I don't want everybody crossing back and forth over the street. So at the end, we did the last hour of investigation where I led it and, did a talk and showed people how to use everything. So it was huge. But did I overthink, and plan and have it out to the
Not you.
detail? I did.
No.
But why it was good? We had over
Why?
350 people show up.
There you go.
And so all those cars, all those people, there wasn't one honk of a horn. There wasn't one stressed out person. Everybody was having fun the whole night. Even kids, families brought their kids of all ages. And you know how kids sometimes will get bored or they'll get, antsy or crying. There wasn't one crying child. There wasn't one fight among a family, nothing. And I had waters and soft drinks and sub sandwiches and chips and cookies for everybody. And I was like, I drive the white Suburban, so everybody just get in the back. And I had my husband take the Suburban and just kind of make rounds with it every once in a while. And people would get stuff out of the back. So they were happy, they were snacking, and they were doing investigating. And my team brought it, man. And so did Rip.
Wow.
And they taught everybody how to use everything. I brought a lot of equipment. They all brought a lot of equipment. So everybody had hands-on experiences. But just that little extra planning, I really think that was the goal, smoothly.
Yes.
So that's why I'm a little bit of a control freak. It's just to make sure, because that's a lot of souls I feel responsible for. Not everybody thinks that way. Not everybody at all thinks that way. But I feel like if it's my investigation and then that's my responsibility from the minute it starts till the minute it ends. And I was the last one out of the gate. Everybody was gone, and that's when I left. So that's why, and even on this travel, of course, abroad, I'm bring that same diligence. And sometimes it's been very helpful because there's things that you don't plan for. There was one time we were on a train and there were cows on the tracks. And so we were stopped in the middle of nowhere, and they're like, you might have to go stay at this old monastery if we can't get the cows off the track. Of course, my daughter and we're from Texas, and we're like,
Right.
do you want us to go get the cows off the track? I mean, it wasn't hard.
We
We were
can
just
do
like,
that, dude.
yeah, but they don't
Yeah.
do it that way, so they're like, well, we have to, I don't know what, ask them nicely, hope that they just move. It was kind of funny, but at the same time, we were thinking, I mean, wouldn't have hurt to stay at the old monastery, but it's
Yeah.
just, things are different. You have to kind of add that into it, but,
Well, I will say that every time that I've been to Scotland now, I think of you
oh, thank
because
you.
you
It's
are
my
here
favorite spot.
me too. I had the
Yeah.
best time and we made the best friends there. And
They're very warm. I think Scotland is the Texas of the UK.
I think so.
I mean, they're
Yeah.
really, they do their own thing. It's very, in some places, wild and woolly history,
Oh,
just like Texas, but
they
they're
ran the
so
Vikings
polite.
out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, for
I mean, they
sure.
are bad to the bone.
They are. But at the same time, so polite. They got those
Yes.
Southern manners. I mean, they just want you to make sure you're happy
Yes.
and content. And, from the start to the finish, they're really, really cute and inviting. But I love it. We were in Edinburgh, which is my really favorite space. But
I live
Sterling,
there.
man, Sterling is a close second. I just tell you, there's so many though. It's kind of hard to choose. I've been everywhere, but all the little places. But they would ask. I remember when the first trip has been years ago, and they asked us one time, "Oh, where'd you come from?" And I said, "Oh, well, we came from London." "Oh gosh, did they treat you okay?" "Well, you're here
Yes.
now. Don't worry about it." Like,
Well,
well,
that's
actually, they were very
exactly
nice.
them. That's exactly them. I had my friend Greg Stewart on, and for those that don't know, the Scots are a very proud people.
Yeah.
And I have had to apologize, and I will always apologize profusely because I spelled Stewart with the U and
Oh,
not, and in Scotland, that's a very big name, right?
yeah.
The Stewarts are it's a very important, very well loved name.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Lots
I
of
was
history.
I was I was discourteous to my friend Greg, but I did apologize. So I didn't
Yeah,
even
that's all you
realize
can
it.
do. Yeah, you
Well, it
didn't. It was
is, but I
just a
mean,
little
I didn't
mistake.
even
But yeah,
realize it.
it's a little
So,
mistake. But some people will, oh, the faux pas, you know.
well, but I'm good at faux pas.
Yeah.
It's my gift. But
Yeah.
but
Well,
like you
let me
said,
tell you real quick. I know we're going to be bringing our mystery guests on
we
soon,
are,
but
and
do
I'm
you
so
want to move
excited.
through a couple of places real quick that were sacred
You know,
sites?
I would really let's see how I would
Or do
really
you want to
enjoy
bring
that.
him on first?
Well, let's do a couple of those and then we'll bring him in because he is so cool. I really
Oh,
want
he
to
is.
save him until we're going to bring him right in the thick of it because he's worthy of the
Okay.
thick.
That's fine. Well, so let's jump to Glastonbury and the chalice well that is thought to hold the Holy Grail. So there, it's known as the Red Spring, and the reason for that really is the iron that's in the
Okay.
ground. It
Yeah.
turns it a shade. It looks like red. So some of the fountains, when it's moving through, like the blood fountain, it looks like red blood from the body
Hmm.
of Christ is moving through there. And the thought is that that the uncle Joseph asked for the chalice, the chalice he drank out of, the Holy Grail, to be buried there, kept safe there, and so people think that it is, and they, because of the red in the water, they really think, oh, this is exactly where it is. But it could be. We don't know. But you've got the Glastonbury Abbey, which is so historic. And now it was so old. I mean, it's from the first century. And it said that Joseph came 65 years after Jesus' death to ask this favor, right? So we'll never know really if that's true or not. But in 1184, there was a devastating fire to the abbey and it had to be rebuilt, but it's still very old. So I mean, you're talking it's so old. And then the Tor, is
Hmm.
up the hill about 518 feet from that. And that is
Okay.
also a spiritual site that pagans and other people have believed it to be a pilgrimage site. It just has gone on for centuries. It's just, even if you took the well out, the Tor stands on its own.
Hmm.
And the Tor, you can climb it if you're agile, and some people climb it faster, but you can certainly climb it in 30 minutes. But it's a lot of steps. You have to, make sure that you want to do
Do they
that.
have it?
But
Do they have the steps niched
they
in?
do. They have steps and stuff now, so it's so much easier to do. But it's very much, like I said, to this day, they have the Glastonbury music festivals. They have a lot of stuff that goes on in Glastonbury.
Oh,
But look
okay.
up,
I know where that is.
yeah, it's beautiful, 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 but so deeply historic, so spiritual. There's mystics have been going there
Hmm.
for all time. I mean, just the land and just where it is. And there's so much we don't even have. It would take more than an hour to tell you all about it. But put that on your list. Put that on your
Okay.
list.
Well,
And we'll do the last one. Let's round it out with Canterbury Cathedral. So St. Thomas Becket actually is buried there in 1408. He was killed because things got sideways between him and Henry VIII, and four of Henry's knights came and killed him right there in the cathedral. Now, the cathedral was built just 2 years. Notre Dame, sorry,
mhm,
is quite a pilgrimage for people. It was built in 1182. So Canterbury was built in 1184. So just a couple of years. They're basically the same age.
mhm.
And both sites are really pilgrimage for people. It's just sacred sites for them. Now, as far as Canterbury is concerned, some of the stone was imported all the way from Normandy in
Really?
France. So yeah, to build it. So it's got just, and that stone was so old that they came over and built it with way back when. So those are three of my favorites and three that are accessible. One, remember the title, TIDAL. Way
Definitely.
is going to come in, and you want to think about that. So, ready for mystery guest?
Always. We are ready for our mystery guest. And for everyone listening, y'all know him. So hang on to your hats. Welcome, Mark Elliott Fultz. Hey.
Howdy! Hi! Good to
Yay.
be
Hey, Mark.
here!
How are you?
Hey! I'm fine. How are y'all?
Good. We've
We
been
are
talking about
good.
sacred sites.
Oh, okay. Good. Yes, I was listening. It's very good.
Yes,
Very interesting.
he could hear. I am so glad to see you, Mark. And
Did
Jill, you
you?
didn't know Mark was on with me last week.
I didn't. We
And
were doing another
so,
investigation.
yes. And so it is so much fun because he is a fan favorite because all of my friends know him from his show.
Yeah.
And so, Mark, I'm so glad you're here.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Thanks
It's
for being here.
mighty glad to be here.
Why, yeah. So, I'm going to tell you that your name is over your face almost. Can you kind of
Yes.
lean back a little bit or something? There you go. Now I see your. Whoa. Come back to the light, Mark. You'll
Let
do
me
fine.
see.
You're just
Let me
fine.
see. Let me see if I can. There.
Oh, there
How
you
about now?
go. There
That's
you go.
perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Thank you
Yay.
ever so.
Oh, yes.
Alright.
You're so welcome.
Thank you ever so.
So,
So what's going down? What we're gonna jump into?
Well, I thought, we've never told the full story of York. So
Mm,
yes.
I thought I would talk about York, and then you could jump in and tell what happened to you because of my trip that shouldn't have had anything to do with you.
that's
I'm so
true.
ready to hear this. Teal says that
And
this is stuff that even I haven't heard yet. So
Yeah.
I'm
okay,
really pumped
yeah.
up.
It really has. It ended up having a quite an impact in my life, but it was interesting how it kind of went sideways, came back around, and you know made a circle. so, um, but I will let Teal go first. You
Well,
go
okay.
first.
All right. Yeah, a lot of it is going to be, Mark's story. He just hasn't ever told it on air. So I love York. It is just
I'm shocked.
amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. And there is a part of it called the Shambles. And the Shambles is very old, very historic. And there are so many, many, many hauntings there. It's really every place around, every restaurant, every pub, it has hauntings, well known. And do we have an echo? We sound like we have an
A
echo all
little
of a
bit.
sudden.
I'm going over here to check that
Okay,
out.
I'll let you check.
And it may just be that we're coming through Mark's speaker, and that's okay.
Oh, okay.
That we're coming at well,
Teal's
well,
coming through.
okay.
Ah,
I'm all up in your business again, Mark.
What's different? What's new?
why should tonight be a difference?
No,
No, it's, yeah, you
no.
can't tell.
Wait a
All
minute.
right. So, York, I rented a 650-year-old, older than that now, big, big place. They call it an apartment, but it's a house. It's a big house. And right next to it is another, what they call apartment, but it is joined together by a common hall. The second one is locked in 1960s, 70s, as if you just step back in time. Every single thing in that place looks as if you're right there, right back in the 60s and early 70s. So really the 60s. But so anyway, I stayed in the older part with my younger daughter and her husband, and it was 3 floors. So you had the bottom floor with the common hall. You go up the stairs to the second floor, and that's where I stayed. And then you go up another set of stairs to the third floor, and that's where my daughter and her husband stayed. So there is an old story about the second floor where I stayed seems to be the most haunted. But I don't know. By the end of the trip, I think you could just take your pick on either room, any floor between that place and the 60s Palace next door. It was everybody had experiences, but nobody wanted to scare any of the other people staying there. So nobody said anything. But so there's a legend that on my second floor at the foot of that steps there is a little cove, and it has a window that you can look out of. It's beautiful. Has a little desk sitting there now, and that's where I was writing actually part of the book. I had so many great stories coming up, and with this I didn't want to forget anything, not that I think you could. For gosh This, what was it? Gosh, I'm forgetting my own books. Anyway, for one of the books of our travel stories. Do you know it, Mark? Do you remember it?
I'm being blonde. Um,
It's like the
I
Ghostly
never
Encounters
remember
book.
We're
I
going to
can't
talk
remember.
about
I'm
that
I'm
later.
on
Yeah,
like 11 books now. I can't remember. But
yeah, I can't remember.
so anyway, the woman is supposed to weep and cry there, and she's been heard for many, many, many years. And she lost her child, and so she sits on the step and weeps, or the stair and weeps. And I was about to go right one night, and it was wee hours, everybody was asleep, and I thought I'm going to go out there. Although I had this huge second floor of living space with the kitchen and the living room, it was big. I just thought, just for fun, I just wanted to make sure I got everywhere. So as I was going out, I saw, I mean, of course, it was crazy, but it was just like a wisp of the figure of a woman in white. And I thought I heard something like kind of shuffling around out there. And I did hear her cry before we left. But that night, when I opened the door, it was just this misty woman figure, and she shot off down the stairs as quick as she. So that was obviously an intelligent haunting, because she recognized that I was opening the door, saw her, and she just poof down the
Just
stairs.
reacted.
And
Yeah.
yeah, she just went. So that was kind of an interesting thing that I hadn't told anybody before. But I thought, well, maybe I'll just go back in my apartment and worry about that tomorrow. So, but I did. I love the feeling of it. I mean, it wasn't scary. It was more sad with her, because she was mournful. I did not know at that time the legend. So I just thought I saw a woman's spirit and off she went. But I wasn't surprised, because it was over 650 years old. I mean, that's a lot of time and history to take place
Sure.
somewhere.
Yeah.
So I did. I sat for a little bit and looked out the window. It was just gorgeous. It was just beautiful space, and it's kind of a dreamy environment anyway. But from the get go, I went back to the room, and I say room, but again, it's a whole floor, so it's big. And I got in my bed, and I had the fire going in there, so there was that soft light. I had a little light in the kitchen, but it was basically dark other than that. And no more did I lay down. I wasn't asleep. There starts this tapping on the window, but tapping with a purpose. It wasn't just like a little tap, tap. It was tap, tap, tap. And I thought, oh my gosh, because I hadn't paid much attention to what was out that window. And I thought somebody was trying to get in. I knew it wasn't my people, but I was like, what the heck? So I throw the curtain back and look, and there's nothing there. And also, there's no way they could stand. It wasn't where there was part of a roof for you to stand on. There wasn't a balcony. It was just a sheer descent down from that second floor. And I mean, and you can see outside, the courtyards had some lighting in it, and surrounded by a surviving old Roman wall, huge gate with a key that I can still feel the weight of in my hand. It's amazing. So nobody had gotten in, and even if they had, no way you can be tapping on my window. So I thought, you know what? I'm tired. I must just forget it. This went on like 3 or 4 more times, and I said, I'm tired of this tapping tappy tappy. You're not there. You're not showing yourself. Stop. It didn't happen anymore that night. But as I laid down and I was just like, oh, you know, that feeling you get when you think I'm finally relaxing and I'm going to get some sleep. Then I felt my covers move. And I thought, are you kidding? This is like a bad B movie, which, you know, I don't love those. I'm like, come on, either tell the story or don't. But it was true. And it was like a little tug. And I'm watching it move down me, like the covers are moving down me. And I was like, and I did say, you got to be kidding me. And then it went from the bot, you know, like it went from my feet down and it went clear across the room. The cover just was like thrown off me. Well, there was no way that could even have been a trick that was set up. Not that anybody would do that, but there was no wires. I mean, I had walked around the whole place. You couldn't say somebody that was renting the place wanted to move these ghost stories forward because I had never heard of them. And in fact, the owners did not want the ghost stories talked about at that time. So many people have had experiences that now I think they do talk about it. But back then it was nope, nothing. So I was like, huh, well, there you go. So I went and got my cover and I was like, I don't like that, you know? And so I got my cover and I got back in bed and something kept sounding like it was scratching or moving by the head of my bed, but I just looked down at this table. I did not make the effort, I guess, to look at the table that was beside my head, this little one at the corner. If I had, we would have seen what was going to change Mark's life, but I didn't. So this went on night after night. There were sounds and everything. The knocking never stopped. It was just weird night after night. And, you know, I would tell them stop. They did stop, but I don't know what the knocking was. I guess just to get my attention. I don't know. They never threw the covers off again, but I would hear them walking around because, you know, a really old wood flooring, you hear the creak of somebody stepping. And on some of the steps, it would move some of the furniture. And that furniture would kind of creak and move. And so, you know, they were walking from where I was to the kitchen and back. And I was like, oh, good grief. Well, we ended up being involved that next day in one of the worst floods they had had in over 25 years. So
there's something with you and water, girl.
I know it's right, isn't it? I never thought about that, but you're right. You're right. I'm going to have to think about that. So everybody in the group is kind of rushing around. Everybody's kind of got their, you know, what they're going to do, what they're going to try to get, whether that's food in or money or whatever. Everybody's got something to do. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to start cooking up what we have so that when everybody gets back, we have food because we don't know if anything's going to be open. And shops were closing just as everybody was getting to them, you know, and they're like, oh my gosh, they're shutting the gates because they were losing the power. The power was gone, you know, and their Viking Center got flooded badly. And that was somewhere we were going to visit. Lots of things. It was just terrible, terrible flooding. So my people did as much as they could, my friends, family, whatever. And we always carry, because I'm, again, on those little points of making prep, you know, we had cash or card. So, you know, whatever it was, a lot of the places didn't have any access to electricity. So they were like, I can't sell you anything. And they're like, we can give you cash and you can just keep the change. So they did that. So we were fine. And we were elevated where we were, that we never had flooding. Nothing flooded. It was fine where we were. We were just high enough up there in the shambles. But so anyway, while everybody was gone, and several of the members, you know, that were with me said, are you sure, Teal, you want to stay here by yourself? And I said, yeah, I've got stuff to do. I have different things. As you know, I had my show, you know, back then that I was doing Mysteries and different things. And so I had just prep work. So I said, no. And look, I said, oh, please, you know, they're like, this place is really seems like it's maybe got something going on in it. And so does a place next door. But we weren't telling each other what, and they just alluded to something. And I said, oh, please, I do this for a living. Go on. Well, I shouldn't be boastful like that. That's one thing. I'm so sick of eating crow feathers. So they leave, and almost immediately I think, well, they must have come back. I must have missed it. I had the door open, so I would have heard or known. But upstairs, there is heavy boots. And I'm thinking nobody even is that heavy. I mean, it was a really heavy boots, like you would think a soldier would wear or something, or I don't know what, but a heavy, somebody big, like a grown big man. So I was like, did somebody break in? And I was like, hello, did you come back? And I trotted up there, nothing, opened the door, nothing, didn't see anything. I was like, well, I just know I heard something. Maybe it's something from the next room it connects. I don't know. So I went down the third flight, second flight, down to the first floor, and I checked the door's locked. Went across the hall into the other building and checked all the everything there. There wasn't a door there to get out of, so it was only that common hallway with the door to get in and out from both places at that time. So I thought, that's just weird. And so I go back up to my second floor in the old part, and I hear this banging, and then also the footsteps started again, and then the tapping on the window. And I think that's what kind of put me on edge, because I was like, are you serious? And I was like, come on, this is ridiculous. The tapping on the window. Yeah. And but I think the fact that it started in even during the day, it just kind of agitated me. And I was like, what is it? What do you want? All this tapping, all this, stuff. There's nobody up there. I've checked it. It's ridiculous, And I said, if you want to say something to me, why don't you just say it? Well, the phone rings. Not my phone, the house phone. And again, I'm like, come on, this is like a bad B movie. It's not, it's the stuff I would throw popcorn at and go, come on, not true. That didn't, more crow feathers to eat. And here's the thing, I didn't think about it at the time. The owner had come early that morning just to check, make sure we're all okay, and tell us, listen, they had some food at their house. If anything goes wrong, we can't get what we need, please don't hesitate. Just checking on us, just being a good host. He also said, I don't, it's not it's not connected. I'm unplugging it from the wall and everything. There's no power on the phone line. So, do you have cell phones? Do you need me to bring you anything? And we were like, oh no, we have cell phones. We're okay. But I didn't think about the phone being unplugged at that moment. It wasn't even plugged in. So I answer the phone. I'm like, oh, okay. So I answer the phone. I'm like, what? Come on. And it all I hear is this really loud, but also it sounded like rushing water, like so many voices all at once. And I was like, nope. And I hung the phone up and I was like, nope. And all of a sudden, also the heavy boots start coming, but they sound like they're coming down the stairs. And so I grabbed my keys, grabbed my bag, and I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. And the window is going tap, 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 tap. And I'm like, nope. And so I go down, and it sounded like the boots were coming down the stairs at me, like unmistakably getting closer. I did not run, because I don't run, but I did learn how to power walk. And so I'm like, And so I go out, I get out the door, I shut the door and lock it. I've got my massive key to the gate. I'm all set. And I get out there, and it's just like it's daytime. We're fine. We're not flooded. Everything's good. It's beautiful out there. It's this huge courtyard. And I look around like, is there any way, I walk to the side of everywhere. I'm looking everywhere. Is there any way anybody has a fire escape or anything that they are just messing with me? There wasn't anything. There was no way to get up the side at all. It was actually made to be quite safe, I thought, okay, I'm going to go back in because this is ridiculous. That is just craziness that just happened. So I go back in and I listen. And it's very still. It's very still. And I thought, okay, all right, I'm just going to go because it's going to be getting dark soon. It was the time of year when by 3:30 it starts getting dark. I know that sounds crazy, but it was afternoon and it was going to get dark soon. So I thought, it's 30 minutes before I have to meet everybody at the cathedral next door. I'm just going to go. So I locked everything up again and, off I went. sat on a bench out there, and Mark loves green men. And I sat down, and there's, all these carvings of green men everywhere and all and stuff. And I was like, oh, he'd like this place. And I just started looking, and this was a historic thing from the Romans, and this was that, and just all this history I'm sitting in. And then I went over to the cathedral. Everybody showed up, everything was fine. But from that moment, Mark was being contacted, and I didn't know, so he didn't know about this round object that was going to change his life. But I'll let Mark talk about how they started to contact him.
Oh, do Mark.
It was fun. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay. I do want to address the tapping. In spiritualism, what that is when people used to do table tipping
Oh,
or
Okay.
at the table knocking. That's code.
oh,
So if you could record that tapping, if you ever go there again, or when you go there again, record the tapping, and then you can break it down to what they're saying.
I'll bring
'Cause
you two, and y'all have fun with that.
I will.
Yeah.
I will. You know
I may
me,
tag along on that one. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
talking to dead people is my life's work.
That's true.
But I started
Literally.
getting connected. Really, it's like she was still, I think, over in York,
I
and
was
I
still
was
in York.
having,
Yeah.
and you know, the spirits were kind of like pulling at me.
She won't talk to us. Can you talk to us?
Yes,
We need you to
and
let her know.
Right.
yes, and they were
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
we're trying to get whatever we're trying to get across. So
Yeah.
when she got home, I started talking to her about it, and she started telling me the story she just told about, the phone ringing and everything. And she had basically told them, if you want to talk, talk. So
I didn't
they
listen.
were,
Yeah.
and they were trying to talk.
Yeah.
And that noise on the phone when they start to
Oh,
connect in, what they're
right,
doing is they're trying to connect into vocal cords.
right.
And so they'll make these and then it'll turn
I've actually
into
heard that,
yes,
and
and
at first it terrified me, and then I realized it was somebody that hadn't talked in a long time.
yeah, they start to vocalize, and then it goes from that to a I O U, kind of thing.
Well, it's
And
not.
so if you
It
look,
is scary.
it's very
Yeah. And
scary.
it's like you're like, it can't even be real, because
Right,
Yeah,
that's
because
something from the movies. But it was
it
it
sounds
was
like
happening.
it sounds like a monster movie, which is why I don't watch horror movies.
yeah,
Right.
but
Right.
So,
I love it. But if it goes long enough, it will turn into words.
Yeah. See,
So
now after he was
yeah.
telling me all this, I was like, gosh, well, now I feel kind of bad about it, and I wonder what they wanted to say.
I
Well,
guess you're going to go find out, though, aren't you?
they just
Yeah.
wanted to communicate. So they started communicating with me, and I was like, "What's going on? What's going
Okay.
on?" And so we started. They when I started talking to her, they were still connected to her, and so they really started talking to me. And then I was like, "All right," and I broke it down into the spirits that I could tell. And there was a guy that I think was executed on the property that was probably Roman era. I have his name somewhere. I've got to find it. Um, but his name is above my pay grade. I can't pronounce it. But the lady with the baby is a lady who had a child. The child died, and she kind of lost her mind. And there was a lady there named Mrs. Borley who watched over her, for certain reasons,
Right.
But there's like 4 or 5 spirits there. So, but what they started telling me was that we want to communicate, but we don't like the boards and things that are available. We don't, it's almost like, how old are you? Tap tap. I mean, on the
Yeah.
boards you have to spell everything out. You have to, and with them, of course, in the old days, I'm have roots in spiritualism, which is, you do the table tappings, the board use, the whatever they have, and they're like, it it's too primitive. We want something with full words, and so they were like, oh, we want you to make this communication stuff. So I went, I really didn't have a choice
No,
They
because
wouldn't
they
let
they
him
knew
totally,
sleep.
they wouldn't let me
They wouldn't.
sleep
No,
or
he would be
or
like, Teal, I'm
rest.
not getting any sleep. Like, I don't know what to do here. This is crazy because they
make the
are after
board.
me, and
They were
only when
after me.
I will do what they say will they stop.
Yeah, I mean, and it wasn't like we're commanding me. They were just like, no, 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 we know you can do this. Do this. And I did these boards,
Right?
and there's really like they have full. The first one I did was called a Deja board, which it has full words. It has this incredible looking kind of design running around the board
Hmm. Beautiful.
of the seasons and stuff, and it was based on a. They drew it. They kind of like went. We like this, so they led me to a gypsy necklace that it was a circular necklace that spins, and it
Yeah.
had this little pointer on it, and the design on it on the back. One side it had letters and whatnot. The other side it had things to represent the seasons of the year, and no, no, no. So it was very beautiful, and I've never seen anything like it before or since. And they went, we like that. Start with that. Then I did the first board, did the words, did about 30 words, I guess, and full ones, and whatever, I thought. And then the center of the board has a third eye in it. So what I do is I connect my third eye to the center of the board and, connect it and get it going. So one I had already done, and then they showed me 3 or 4 other boards that they went, all right, that's the beginning. So here are these other ones. So I did those. And they're all beautifully bright colors like what you see in the neurons and in the consciousness and stuff
Hmm.
like that. I mean, actually, I forgot to bring the board. I have it over there, actually. One of them. But bright colors,
They're
all this stuff
beautiful.
that stimulate the different parts of the neurons. And and it turned in from the Deja board is the main board, and in the 4 boards, the 4 categories of death, which are like homicide, suicide, natural death, unnatural deaths, kind of things. And so I connect each one through the Eye of Horus on each one to you connect all of the boards, have them sitting out, and then if they're when they're working, then they look like you're a DJ. But you can skip from when they're talking if they're going like if they're like, all right, if you're looking for a cause of death, here's a cause of death, and then you go to the board that has the cause of death, because if you're looking into a unsolved murder, you're looking for the type of death, if it's a weapon, if it was suicide, if it was murder, if it was natural, unnatural. And so they got this very complex kind of thing going. And I'm doing it, and I've already gotten 2 or 3 boards kind of done. And Teal's posting some of her pictures from her trip. And I look at the pictures and I see this round board and I said, well, what's that? Is that in a window of a store or something at the place you're at? And she goes, no. She said, I forgot to tell you. And by the bed, this place is so haunted, they have Ouija boards, kind of spirit boards,
Yeah.
by the bed so you can talk to the spirits, and it was round.
Hmm.
And I went, oh,
And
well, they're
he
used to
didn't know
that.
that. He didn't
No,
know
Wow.
that. So
no.
he's getting
Wow.
all this information. It must be round. It must be this. He had no idea about the picture or anything. And I didn't, I forgot.
Oh, yeah. And they like the round for a lot of reasons. Because when you're doing a board, it's kind of like a lot of things for me revolve around neurons
Hmm.
and nucleuses of neurons. So if you have the center kind of like, it's kind of a neuron. It's got the information. So they
Yes.
like that roundness. So I have 4 or 5 boards already that are round. I went, oh, okay, they're very subtle,
Yeah.
and they really told me what they wanted, and then they're like, now we, because they want to talk further in sentences, not like a, e, or they really want to communicate. So I've used the boards. They work, boom, 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 and so but when I start using them, it'll look like a DJ using it. I'll be doing all of that. And then besides that, there's going to be chemical boards and vehicle boards so I can look at. Because I mean, I'm a typical, what kind of car was it? Brown. You know, I don't know makes of cars and types of cars and
Oh, I
years of
wouldn't know that
cars.
either.
And so I gotta break it into those. And then they also went, all right, now here's gonna help you because so I have the design, which the boards for the names. There's 35 boards with 3,500 men's names, 3,500 female names, and it's 35 boards apiece with 100 names per board. And they went, all right, you put it under the table, you do this, you label it, and if we tell you it's an F, you go to and it's a female, or if it's a male, you go to that F board, pull it up, and then we'll help you find the names. So, I mean, crazy stuff.
Well,
So,
let me interrupt
sure,
you for a minute
sure,
because I know, and our everyday listeners know, and Teal knows,
yeah,
but not everybody may know that you are truly a brilliant metaphysician.
thank you.
You are an author. You are a psychic extraordinaire. You flip me out when you do things. You're a channel.
Oh, thank you.
You are used to people communicating with and through you. So this is not something that is just like yanking out of the air and going, woo. I mean, this really happens to you all the time. So it didn't shock you so much, right?
Oh no, I loved it.
Right.
And even though it was irritating, like I have insomnia, but at some point at 2 or 3 in the morning, I'll be going, "All right, kids, I'm turning the lights off. You have to wait." But
Yeah.
I forgot, but it was great. And when I was finished with the Deja board, um, it's just so charming and beautiful. People are really drawn to the artwork. So, and uh, I don't know, it just has a whole different thing to it that when I can get it all working and going, and two for the planchette, here's where we go. They
Of
went, they went, we don't want a normal planchette.
course not.
And
Of
I have
course
one
not.
which I adore, which is you press it and it lights up in the dark. I love it. They like that one, but they're like, oh,
It's not
we want.
special enough.
And so I bought the supplies. Now I just gotta get all the silver and stuff to do it. But I got there's a thing called silver metal clay, and it's silver or or gold or bronze or copper, and it has the metal in the clay, You can cast it or shape it or mold it, and then you bake it, and it burns off the clay, and it's silver or it's gold, and it's real silver. I mean, it's 99.9 silver. So they showed me the design for the planchette, which is this very beautiful, spooky female spirit pointing towards the window on the planchette. And so I've got to sculpt that, and then I'm going to cast it, and I've got the kiln, everything to do it, to make the planchette out of silver with little touches of gold. Put in actual stones like emeralds, things like that. So that will kind of, I'm getting ready to start revving up that this fall, get that going, so get all the name boards finished, because the name boards have designs from headstones. Some of the old skull, like Teal's
Memento
grandfather,
Mori.
Memento Mori looking stuff.
Yeah.
But it's in a circle, of course. Around the edge is all these winged skulls and angels and things. And but when I get the planchette done, then I can bake that and use that planchette. And they really want that, but they're waiting until I can download it and get it from here to here. Because right now I've been doing my psychic worm stitch book, and right now this noodle has too many things about neurons and weird stuff going on.
Myelin.
But
Thank
after
you
I
very
get that
much.
kind of cleaned out, then I will do the board to finish the planchettes. Long story, but that all came from her spirits, and they wanted to communicate. So then I was able to, we explored the stories of any of them that wanted to talk. But then they were like, they got me to do this, and so anytime I use the boards, then they are like, they are helping with that. They were actually very sweet spirits. They are just very old. And they're very tired of not being able to tell people what they really think. Now, see, in England and things like that, you have older ghost cycles than here, because we have old hauntings here, but not as old as some of the European, because there have been more people longer. There are some very old ones here, but in England and stuff, you have hauntings that go for 1,000 years sometimes.
Can I ask you about that?
Yeah.
Well, do people, and you're the only people I know that will know the answer to this that I would
I will
trust,
try. I
but
will try.
when people die
Mhm.
and they come back, you know, but when you throw reincarnation into that mix,
Mhm.
then do we have do we have like dozens upon dozens of hundreds of thousands of spirits that are individuals, or do we have spirits that kind of recycle through? Or how does that work?
Well, I will give it from my perspective,
Okay.
because I'm a reincarnated person. I
Yes.
know the last two, maybe three last chances that got interrupted before I could become into this physical self. And what it is with reincarnation, the soul protects the spirit. The spirit is the new you. It plugs it into the third eye. The soul protects the spirit, which is you. And during your lifetime, your spirit develops, records, learns, becomes you. This is Mark. But your own, as far as your reincarnation, you're a fraction. You're just a fractal. It's just a sliver of each one. I have, like, for me, I know I have the DNA of thousands and thousands of people. I have
Mhm.
the, in the consciousness, you have just, everybody, everything. But as a person, we have the DNA reincarnation of all the people who put into our system, into our gene pool. And in spiritual reincarnation, um, comes into play. I had to deal with that with somebody today. I said, it's good to know who you're reincarnated from, but it's like having a diary or a journal. That was your journal from then. This is your journal now. You can know about the journal from then, know that, well, because I died in a plane crash, or was murdered, or I was this, that caused me problems, or I drowned or something, and that makes me afraid of water, or da 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 da. Well, this journal is what you really got to focus on. You can know where your roots from and where the things come from your past one, but you come into this life. When I died, they were like, "What did you learn?" And so when I came back, I went, "Well, we better figure it out," and I did. So your past life, you're like a fraction of them. They're like a sliver, and they're in there to help you and support you, but the soul is there to protect you and let you develop who you are, not who they were, but who you are. And
So we're
then
still individual.
we're still individual. Now we have multiple spiritual energy bodies. We are multi-layered. We
Hmm.
have the core one, which is all the stuff, all the ectoplasm, and the where basically the spirit, when it comes in, it's like it plugs into the third eye and it drives the machine. This is like
Okay.
a car. And
So,
you're well, and in the spirits, we have an energy body. We have who we are creating as a personality. We have our soul. We have our spirit. We have our personality, which is separate. And sometimes those will split sometimes, and sometimes ghost are sometimes the personality. Sometimes it can be the personality and the spirit. Sometimes it can be the soul. Or it can be absolutely the personality that just wouldn't stop, and everything else has gone, oh, we're going on. And, they go on, and then your personality keeps trying to figure it out or keep going. So we have multi layer. So reincarnation helps you learn, but you have to not let the past one guide this one. This is for you to figure out and get it done. And then the next time when I die, whatever I'm doing next, uh, this is what I can go down the list and say, this is what I did, what I got, and what I didn't get. And do I need to try it again, or or am I okay? And then, but it's fractal. It's not totally 100% usually.
okay. Well, that's why, because of the number of the boards,
Hmm.
okay, and then the number of people that we're talking about
Yeah,
still bebopping around everywhere,
yeah,
okay, then that's where I was kind of getting, and I'm sure maybe some of our listeners were, or maybe my listeners are just a lot cooler than I am and got it the first time around. But I do think that when, because you have such a, both of you have such a grasp of this, and some of this is still so new to me that, and I'm sure to my listeners too. I mean, because we're all experiencing some of this, and
yep,
oh, and Tom McNicholas in chat is kind of going where I was, because he says, I hate the idea that we have to start over again. My childhood and school weren't my favorite, to
yeah.
redo. He likes himself now.
Well,
And
see, yeah, but he may not have to do that again. Mine was terrible. I had a terrible childhood.
true.
But it's about what you as an adult spirit do with what you can do once you're past the training wheels.
Right.
And so it
Okay.
doesn't mean you have to repeat any of it. It's as long as you kind of acknowledge and go, well, why did I go through that? Like for me, I had parents who were not skilled in dealing with other people,
Yeah.
but and I have to
That was
understand
gracious.
it. That's very gracious. But I have to understand why I had to be in that circumstance, and it kept me from being them. I
Hmm.
had to grow to be who I was, totally free of that.
You
Um,
had to grow through it and then
through it,
beyond it.
and yeah, it was the manure I was planted into. What did I turn into out of that? And
Excellent description.
and that's what you do. You know, life is the manure you're given. Plant a flower, or you know, plant a stinkweed, whatever you want to make your life.
Toadstool.
And if you want to be affected by it, then you know, because I mean, I really, if I had been like a lot of my other family members, I would have turned out to be a very self-centered, bitter person who hates people, can't talk to them. My father was just anti everybody, and I would have not. And I'm just who I am, you know.
You
But
are.
that's it, you know. No matter who you are, you know who they are. You are. You have a prepackaged deal
Yeah.
in there. You've just gotta learn to. You can do some of being them, but you have to be you. You have to get it together. You have to get it on,
You have to
and
figure out who you are.
who you are, and see things like with the boards, and also some of the things I'm doing right now. I'm breaking down what I think in a trying to simplify how I think all of that works, so that for the next person who can take it, you know, someone can take it and go further. And because we're all looking for answers, there are no real answers. There's only direction. You know, I can say put you on the right path, maybe, to look at something or to think something different. We as adults don't, we're not really taught to think of ourselves. We're meant to be more of the Borg
Yes.
and to be like everybody else. And if you step out of that, they'll go, you know, if you start to be individual,
Yes.
it gets crushed a lot. And you have to be able to learn how to do it in a way where it works for you.
So
And you can't be afraid to live. You know, a lot of people are afraid to die, but you can't be afraid to live. And that's one of my things. I'm trying. You know, I start going. Don't be afraid to live. Get out there and do
yeah.
it. Do it. Do it. You fall on your face. You know, don't worry about it. You keep going. So it's okay. What are they going to do? Eat you? You know, kill you and eat you.
Mhm.
So no. If they did, they wouldn't like it. So but like the things with the boards, the spirits want to communicate with us. We want to communicate with them, but they just wanted a better communication device.
So they were
So now,
trying to communicate with Teal
yes,
there in York, but
yeah,
because of the normal reaction to that, and that
yeah,
wasn't to me, that was a normal reaction.
Right.
Then, you know, they had to find another way, and you were it.
Yeah.
yes,
He was it
eh,
because he won't say no. He's not the nope. He's like the well, okay. What is it you want to talk about? And I'm like,
yeah,
no, no.
yeah.
But
Also,
I do become a little I don't know what you would call it, like nonchalant about it to a point that it is silly. I shouldn't be that nonchalant on some things because a fireball after the death of my mother, it was really interesting. Like there was like a fireball that people talk about, like an energy, and
yeah,
she did die here in the front house. It went from the hallway, one part of the hallway, all the way down to where the room she died in. And I didn't even get up to stop watching my movie. I just looked and went, oh, okay, that is not normal. So
yeah,
you don't get to that point to where you're like, oh yeah, well, okay, that's cool. Um, yeah, don't do that.
Well, it's so hard, and And we have a question in chat from Tom and says, even though we're you know,
Yeah,
ourselves,
who you become. Yeah.
yeah, parents teach us when growing, how can we distinguish ourselves from what they wanted us to be, from what were building us
Yeah.
to be
Well, if someone's telling you who you should be and you're trying to
as the
fulfill
parent,
that as the parent,
right?
and you can do that 100%, you can try and please them, and you're fulfilling what they want. The thing is, each person has, it's not about what everyone else wants, it's about what you're supposed to be doing. And some people are happy, live their lives, don't really stretch outside of the norm. They do the things their parents do, go to the church their parents do, try to be good, It doesn't mean you have to be outrageous or something, but if you are drawn to something else, then, and you don't do that because you're afraid someone won't accept you, uh, and it's really who you need to become, then if you die, you didn't get that accomplished. So then it's a thing of, well, here's the checkboard, here's the list. Did you get all that done? And is it going to bother you that you didn't? Do we need to? Because people are very. It's really the consciousness wants to grow and wants to learn. And they want you to experience everything.
Right.
And they learn and grow from that. And it's a consciousness. And there's a whole lot. And the more that you are connected to it, the more that you as a person grow and you give. And there's a system that tries to get you to come over and do, when you died, they try to get you into the right place so that you don't, because we have free will. If we don't transition and go into the consciousness, then, if we say, well, I'm not finished with this life, I'm still trying to live a life I don't have anymore, then that can cause problems, or they can hang out for a little while. Some people, even as ghosts, ghosts don't last forever. It's at
Do they
some
not?
point they will break. At some point, if they know how to feed themselves, and I say this a lot, which is we have in our cells chloroplast,
Hmm.
uh, which plants use to do photosynthesis. And you can turn light and heat and energy into food. So, in your plasma, electromagnetic plasma form, you can live indefinitely if you understand how to eat. If they don't know how to eat, eventually what happens, that plasma thickens, gets colder, gets thicker, gets broken down, and then gets reabsorbed, and eventually the person gets reabsorbed and they make it to the consciousness. It's just it's at a point where they've broken down so far that they can't resist going into the electromagnetic field. And so eventually everybody gets reabsorbed at some point. Uh, and then it's like, then you go, well, that was special. What do I do next? And if you're going to reincarnate, if you're going to not reincarnate, if you're going to be an assistant, or if you're going to be a guide, if you're going to be part of the intelligence of the consciousness or whatever, it's energy. So it's not laying down. When you die, you're not. Your body may be laying down, but it's energy, your frequency, you're going, and it's continual. There is nobody to wear out anymore. So
Okay.
it's just like being part of a computer. It's like it's always thinking, going, what, who can I help? What can I do? Or affecting. And like the ghost in York, they are intelligent and they don't like not being able to communicate. So think about being stuck in a place where you're going, hey, hey, and you may hear something
Ah.
like you're driving a car with an open window going by, somebody go, "Ah,"
Yeah.
Yeah.
they want to talk.
Or
And
power
you know
walking out the door.
yeah,
Right. They're like, well, she's just not helping.
but see, that was
But
okay
she has a
because
friend.
that
Yeah.
opened the door to communication.
Yeah, and
And
I gotta say that's not my thing. Like I go in with no tools generally. I just psychically and whatever pick things up. Same thing with mediumship. I keep that at arm's length. Like I can see them, they can get messages to me. Nobody comes in me. Nobody gets to use me or my energy. I am not a
Yes.
welcoming soul. Mark is like, come on, check out
yeah,
the place. It's your house for a while. And I'm like,
He did
no, no,
that at an
no.
no,
investigation with me, and it was. Have I told you that? The
Yeah, but I
coolest
think you should
thing.
tell the audience because it's a good one.
Well, it's the coolest thing ever. And I had an investigation. I wasn't sure what we were going to run into, but I knew it was bothering animals, so there was a negative there. And so I asked Mark if he wanted to come and do this investigation with me so that I would know, because do I have gifts? I do. Do I know how to fully implement them like Mark does? Absolutely not. And I don't trust it. And this was an animal that I cared about that was having a problem with the spirit in this house, right? So Lori Dorsey, myself, and Mark went to this house, and Mark started channeling. And I'm like, everything about Mark changed.
Yeah,
His
he's
voice
like a different
changed.
person.
It's
Yeah,
he was not like a different person. He was a different person.
yeah,
And this was a person that had a different hairstyle, a different facial structure, a different voice, a different, you know, physicality of how he moved. And he did not like me a bit because I asked him questions. And, you know, especially because I'm just going to tell this really quick part because we only have 8 minutes. Mark was doing this thing, and he was like, well, that doesn't even look like me. I'm not black. I'm not black. I'm dark. But that picture in the post office doesn't even look like me. And I'm like, why is your picture in the post office, son? What's up with this? I didn't say hun because I knew he was not in but I was like, why is your picture in the post office? You don't need to know that. And it was just like that because I have it on video before the camera killed. I mean, he killed the cameras. But
you
I
don't
was
want to be
just
seen.
like, well, look at that. That's not Mark. But it was so amazing. And hey, April. But you know, oh, and thank you. April said she struggles with her gifts too, so it's not just me. I'm not alone. But I,
Well, everyone struggles with their gifts,
yeah.
even if you're working in it. You have to always. It's a struggle. It's a good struggle,
It's a
but it's a
comfort
struggle.
level too. It's like
Yeah.
it
whatever
is a
you
comfort
feel.
level.
And listen, I got to pop in just and say, listen to your gut and your intuition on that, because sometimes things that know you don't have control of yourself will want to hop in and take you for a ride there, and that's not safe. You got Mark
Yes.
is
Yeah.
very well trained,
Mark is
very,
very,
very for decades. He's been working and
Yep.
training in this, and he knows
yes.
how to shut things down. But if you're just, open to everything, that's where you get in trouble because you don't know how to stop it. And that's a whole nother animal.
Yes. I mean, this is
Yeah.
not a just do it for peeps and giggles kind of
No.
thing.
Yeah.
This is
Uh-uh.
No.
serious.
No. And
And
I've been doing it a long time,
a
and
long
a
time.
long time. But
He's
before I
my
do
age, y'all.
it,
It's not that long. But
and I have a energy system set up to where I do a coating, like a Teflon coating. That believe me, I do a week's worth of work before I even approach something like that. And then once I've done a communication, then I expel the energy, disconnect, and there's no connection of it into my system. You can pull things into your system and be infected, and unless you
Yes.
have everything
Correct.
coded and fixed, and but it can be very safely done. It just has to, but it's work. It's a
If you're the
discipline
right person who has studied and has the knowledge to do it.
to do it, and it's natural for me. It started off natural, and then I had to turn it into a discipline because I'm like, no, we're going to do this right,
Yeah.
and because you don't want to get sick off of it, or go around going, let's knock off a 7-Eleven.
This guy was going
So
to knock off more than 7-Eleven. He
oh,
already had
he
done
was a,
that.
he was a scumbag.
Yeah.
And he was hated dogs, and he was hurting the dog there. He was hurting another dog on the property,
Yes.
and we stopped that. So
Yes. You
you
stopped
know,
that, and I was so thankful.
yeah, and I was very glad because it's children and animals. It's like no, 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 no. You cannot. No, no,
Exactly.
no, no, no,
Off
no, no, no.
limits.
I will step in between whatever is going on because an animal can't stop the spirit. A child cannot protect themselves from something like that,
Yes.
and it's like hey to the no. So, but that just comes from being an old what I am. So,
Yeah. And I'm so glad you are. And I'm so glad that both of y'all are here tonight because this has been, it really is fascinating until we're going to talk about more of your um, more exotic things another time because
Sure.
this is pretty darned. I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's the first time we've ever told the story publicly to anybody, so
yeah,
you got
to
the
run away.
scoop.
Yeah.
well, I'm just so thrilled because I knew you had those boards you were working on. I didn't know they originated with Teal
Yeah.
and her experience.
Yeah.
So, there's so
Totally. And she was like, let them go to you. Leave me
Yeah. I didn't help out
alone.
at all. I was
And
like, oh, they're yours. Off you go.
and I would call her. And I sent her a copy of the first board. I know she's got it
Yeah.
hiding somewhere. I said,
Yeah.
cool.
they want you to have this so you can talk to them. No, I don't think so. I
Well,
don't
I'm going to tell you that who is April is great. She's a very analytical, investigative. Well, she's gifted. And she said that something scared her dog tonight, and she didn't want to go. She went to the door and barked and ran and hid in her barrel.
Yeah.
She has a barrel, and I'm like you because animals. I like animals better
Yep.
than humans, so mostly. And so I'm like you in that if you're messing with something that can't defend,
Oh yeah. Step in
then
between.
yes, and
And
it's imperative. I mean, they don't ask to be here.
no. And
And
right now the veil is thin. This is where the veil is thickening up, which is by November 1st. And then after November 1st, the spirits kind of go into hibernation. So you'll see and there's so much celebration around the spirits at this time of year. They're very active, and then it dies down.
Yeah.
So, this is the time you'll see things and hear things and go through things. We have a ghost cat that in October, I'll see it, and we have in our kitchen we have it'll come out from under the cabinet, and I think it looks just like my cat Puff Puff. It looks like a Maine Coon cat, except it's brown ish. And I'll see its tail, and I think it's Puff Puff, and I'll go, "What you doing?" And it'll fluff its tail, and then it'll disappear, and I'm like, "Oh!" And it comes out every October, and you'll see it running around the other cats or running in the kitchen under the sink. I can tell when it's here. The sink door will be open, and then I know it's out running around.
right,
And it's jumped on my bed a couple of times. So it's that time of the year.
okay. So that's what April said. That they say the veil is thin this time of year, so it could have been anything outside.
It could be, and it will thicken up. When it starts to get cold, since ghosts and spirits are made out of a plasma, like
Oh, the
ectoplasma,
density.
they just get thicker and they kind of hibernate. They go wherever it is they stay, whether it's in the grave, in the dry places, or they find a good house that has good central heat and air, and they kind of just wait it out until it's springtime, and
Okay.
then May 1st they start up again. But if they're in a place where there's good central heat and air, they can function all winter, sometimes. So it just
Cool
depends.
beans.
But if she
Well,
has a problem with it, she can
we are
holler.
so we are so out of time. I I I hate that we're out of time. I love talking with both of y'all, and when we get together, we we should do a show pretty often
We
together. That would
will.
be a good
Sure,
time. And
Yeah.
we can touch on more of these things. So we can do that. I'll make a point
sure.
of that.
Okay.
And but Teal, do you have new books?
Haunted Weatherford just came out. So if you loved
Yay.
Haunted Denton, which it's been on the bestseller list since it came out in the summer of 22, give Haunted Weatherford a try because I think it's my best work so far.
That's saying something.
Hmm.
Cool. So what about you, Mark? I know you've got all the stuff coming out,
Oh,
and we
oh. I've got the my main old grandma's good old cookbook, which is I just turned in the very last recipe, and it's 500 pages so far. For a recipe book, and then I'm working on the Psychic Worm Stitch, and I've got two other books that are almost done. So besides that, the Chattanooga Chills Walking Ghost Book Tour Book, and
yes.
then one called Headless Ghost. So by the turn of the year, I should have four under my belt extras. So,
All right.
Cool.
so we're doing.
Well, thank y'all both for being here and for everyone listening. Y'all are the reason we do this. This is fun for us. We love these topics. I love anything anomalous. These are two of the best in the my experience, really,
Well, thank you.
at what they do. And
Thank you.
I love bringing people like this who are also my friends to y'all. So be blessed. Don't forget to get your spooky on. It's coming right up. And remember to keep all of your energy clear because there's a lot of angst floating around. Don't let it bother you. This is just a thing. We will always get through things. So be blessed. Take care. And we will see you back. Same cat time, same cat channel. Have a great week. I will see you Wednesday on Paranormal Experienced. Good night.
Good night.
Night.